Hi Virgo, welcome to your August 2025 tarot reading. This upcoming Virgo season that's beginning around the 22nd, 23rd of August is a pretty significant one because, well, the sun and the moon move into Virgo side by side around those dates. And it actually is, in my eyes at least, the beginning of our upcoming eclipse season. Now, the eclipse taking place in Virgo won't actually be exact until September, but things are certainly starting to amp up, especially for your sign. Virgo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo rising, from around the 20th, 23rd of the month onwards. But what I want to do now is start by pulling 3 cards for your sign. Let me figure out, bird's eye view, big picture, what have you been working with? What has been important to you? What are you dealing with presently this August? And let's have a glimpse into those upcoming future energies for you too. I'll continue pulling cards throughout the duration of this reading to get deeper into the messages that are coming up. Okay, always nice to see the 8 of Swords in the past position rather than the upcoming. Okay, so this is an energy you've been dealing with. 8 of Pentacles, so another 8. Okay, and we have the King of Cups. I've read for Sagittarius and Aquarius, and they were getting a lot of 8 energy as well. So look, Virgo, maybe you are somebody with placements in those signs. Maybe you have those people in your life, or maybe you're just very much in tune with the collective vibration at the moment, and you're kind of getting a head start on everybody else in the world when it comes to what eclipse season will mean for everybody who is alive today. That's one of the most fascinating pieces of astrology in my eyes, because obviously everyone experiences transits differently and no 2 birth charts are the same. But one thing that does occur for everybody alive is that eclipses will be falling in their chart somewhere or another. When we see 8s, we are thinking about a kind of cocoon phase where on the other side of whatever this more uncomfortable energy you're working with lately, there really lies a really profound reward. So on the other side of this uncomfortable transformation that you're going through is something that is probably going to feel very good to you eventually. Okay, so when you see the 8 of Swords, this can really feel like a lot of mental burnout or mental kind of like a restriction. Like this person, they're almost trapped by their perceived circumstances, and that's the difference. It's not usually the block or the limitation isn't actually something that is there in real life. Oftentimes it's somewhat of our own mindset that keeps us in this sort of 8 of Swords way of being, and it is in the recent past. So I get the impression that you're somewhat working through that and coming to the other side of that, and the transformative process that's happening from this kind of negative mindset or feeling stuck, feeling in limbo, feeling like you're not reaching your destination, or there's just something not right. You might think it might just be some anxiety. When you do break free and take this blindfold off and see, like this person, that you know what, I'm actually not stuck here, I can navigate forward, there are options, there's a pathway for me, that's really when a lot of transformation happens, because mentally you don't go back there. A lot of that 8 of Swords energy actually can be before this sort of, we talked about the cocoon you might be in now, before, let's say, the expansion that comes after that process. Typically, this is quite a mental energy. Quite typically, you can go through a period of contraction where the brain is just doing its thing. It's a vital organ that is kind of sending impulses through the body, through the nervous system, to suggest that, oh my God, Virgo, you're trying something else. You're about to expand. And it's just doing its survival mechanism purpose, right? Where it's going to potentially lead you to sabotage or self-doubt or to shut down. And that's the Eight of Swords, but I can see that you have kind of broken free from that, so that's amazing. And what happens then, Eight of Pentacles, this is the Sun in Virgo astrologically. So for August, you're really doing what you do best, whatever that may be. Whatever you have deemed to be at this point in your life really worth focusing on, what seems to be sacred to you, what seems to be like kind of like holy work, or just something that you really like deem to be very important, and you work very hard at it for the entirety of August. And actually that's set to transform too. So, oh, just one second. Sorry about that. I have a baby napping, and I just thought that his dad was coming to say he woke up, but it's not the case. Okay, so the Eight of Pentacles, yes, this is set to transform for you, and something about what you've been working on, focused on, really putting in the effort towards, is going to reach some sort of a turning point for you in August. And I think that will be a really welcome breakthrough and a really welcome part of this transformative process that you're pretty much well into now. The King of Cups, yes, this can speak to your personal relationships and there being more of a focus on those towards the end of the month. And I'm talking about quite intimate relationships here. We can have intimate relationships with our astrologer, our therapist, our business partner, our parents, our children, our significant other, or the person that we are romantically involved with. And there's a focus on something that is taking place in a relationship like that, and I'll want to clear that up. The King of Cups also speaks to a kind of a period of you rising, and maybe that is the sort of metaphoric kind of butterfly coming out of the cocoon, which is going to be a little bit towards September, more so for you, end of August into September, but where you really feel like you've mastered some sort of an emotion or a response, or even something quite deep and psychological. It seems like it's going to be a greater time for merging with others for you, for more intimacy, more vulnerability, and then I think also possibly the reward of some sort of a joint venture, returning some kind of like resource, or I don't know, a payoff somehow. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start clearing up these cards. That was a really long intro, Virgo. Thanks for sticking with me. 8 minutes. If this reading resonates, I'll be doing an extended version, which I will link down below. I'll do that right afterwards, and it's actually going to be a pretty good time for you to sign up and get that extended, because in August, like I said, we've got eclipse season beginning, and towards the end of the month I'll be uploading a 6-week overview to get us through that eclipse season for your sign, so taking you from end of August all the way through September to the beginning of October. But if this is all you're here for, let's continue. It's like you almost hear like the phantom waking up sound. I think it's just my cat. Okay, so the Eight of Swords is coming through with the Ace of Swords and your major arcana card, the Hermit. At the bottom of the deck, though, I do have the Fool card in reverse. A little bit of why you have been possibly psyching yourself out or coming up with worst case scenario thoughts is a result of a prior impulsive move where you took a chance on something that in your eyes didn't pay off or quite obviously fell flat. The Fool card is about a more reckless Even some of you, I get the impression that there was like a reckless abandonment, like you left a situation prematurely. You kind of called something quits, and you sort of just like abandoned ship. And maybe this was a project, or maybe this was a relationship or a job, and you potentially feel like in the past you've jumped the gun on something, and you kind of, or maybe the opposite, fools rush in, right? You got into a relationship or a friendship without like any proper kind of vetting process, or it just, something didn't turn out well for you, and there might have even been some sort of an embarrassment there. Potentially it was just very internal, and you didn't share this, but that's kind of what's haunting you in a sense, or probably was haunting you. That seems to be in the rear view mirror for the most part now. Like maybe you just get a little bit of cringe sometimes, but the Ace of Swords is obviously a really triumphant card to see. I feel like that's probably the Ace of Swords, or the sword itself, that like freed you from this tie that was binding you mentally. And the Ace of Swords is an amazing remedy for the Eight of Swords, because it's pure clarity, insight. It's when we can really see our situation and everything around us with like just a lot of awareness and consciousness, and it's like a lightning flash almost, and everything makes sense. And I think it's the perfect remedy to have gotten you out of your head, and to have gotten you unstuck, and to see your reality more clearly. And obviously something happened, because you're able to begin to take more action in the month of August, or have a significant breakthrough with your current ambition and project, that something you're making, something you're studying, something you're revising, or just something like you're part of overall, and you're like quite an integral piece of this working out. Maybe you were doubting your abilities or having some imposter syndrome lately, Virgo. The Hermit card, or even maybe you thought, because of this previous lapse of judgment, possibly quite a major lapse of judgment, which maybe isn't like you usually, where you either impulsively rushed into something or abandoned something prematurely, and there was a sense of regret there. Possibly because of that, you kind of went into sort of like a response, like I better not take action again, or like maybe I'm better off doing nothing in case that happens. But I feel like that is a wound that now is being left more and more in the past. The Hermit card is really interesting too, because they have this lantern really, and when I look at the Hermit card, I try to see what it's shining its lantern on, and I do have this like mountain in the background of both of these cards, and I get the impression that this insight came to you in a way that is so kind of profound that it's leading to the Hermit card, which is a card of soul growth, and it's a card of trusting in your inner wisdom, and it's a card of solitude and deep reflection, and really trusting the answers that you're coming up with yourself. So you've really been very introspective as well, I would say. Really taking time and taking your time to be sure about what is possible for you, what you want, where you're going to put your focus. I think that this would be a time to really, really trust now in what you're thinking, your opinions, and your path forward. I think it's a really validating couple of cards to say that imposter syndrome, that anxiety is being left in the past now. So let's look deeper into this Eight of Pentacles, the card that we have coming through for August. I think you're really starting to get back to yourself now, to feel more like yourself, to feel more upbeat, and just like connected to yourself come this August. Like I said, when we're going through any kind of like uncomfortable transformative process, there probably are points in time where we don't really recognize ourselves, and maybe that's a good thing. Thinking about a caterpillar to a moth to a butterfly, like that transformation is so profound. It's like a death, you know, it is an unrecognizable change. It doesn't have to be that dramatic for you, but it's not a comfortable transformative process. Okay, I have the Page of Pentacles in reverse and the Devil in reverse. Okay, Virgo, your challenges aren't fully out of the way quite yet. It seems like there is a particularly uncomfortable, downright hard conversation that you're called to have in the month of August. The Page of Pentacles in reverse would just caution you to have your receipts. Virgo, if I know Virgo, you do have those receipts, but the Page of Pentacles is a card of communication and like having like all the data, all the information and presenting it quite clearly and efficiently, which sounds very Virgoan to me. However, your ruler, Mercury, is retrograde until around the, let's say the 10th, 11th of August. It is going to be clearing that sort of shadow degree and moving forward. So potentially, if it's possible, to wait until around the second and a half week of August onwards to hash this out. That may or may not be possible. Now, just know that the waters are a little bit muddy for you around this communication that you have to have with somebody. It could be coming through with this Devil card. It's like quite a patriarchal energy, actually. I really even get that vibe from the illustration, you know. Somebody's in their suit and tie. It's somewhat of a kind of institutional energy, positions of authority or leadership, at least those that we are perceiving to be authority. Yeah, so this could come up with a esteemed colleague or a family member of yours, a boss. This could just come up as something quite serious in nature. It could be coming up about work, it could be coming up about money, or, you know, another taboo subject, like you're going to have to address something pretty uncomfortable with somebody. And the Devil card in reverse, it could relate to this person. They may be coping with addiction, they may be going through some sort of a breakup or divorce, maybe they're thinking about leaving their job. They're going through something anyway that they're feeling a little bit hopeless around. And I don't know why, Virgo, but you seem to be a person that is compelled to talk to them about this, or maybe they're coming to you, or maybe you have a very vested interest, like this is a family member of yours or somebody you work with or a significant other. It may or may not be the relationship that's inferred with this King of Cups. Like when you get to the other side of this difficult conversation, you are actually clearing the path for this relationship to kind of reach a new level of understanding, of commitment, of intimacy. And this is potentially the reward of having that, ironing out that kind of thorny issue with somebody. And to look at this in another way, you may be focused on this piece of work, this body of work, and you may be having to collect information about it, but reaching some sort of a block and some sort of an external, I don't know, red tape or something is in your way this month. But what about this Eight of Pentacles being about you, and also these cards being about you? This would suggest that your main focus this month is on yourself and working on yourself. And the Page of Pentacles in reverse and the Devil card in the reverse could be an admission to yourself, a communication instead of outwards and externally, reversed and brought inwards in a way. So it's kind of like a you versus you, or a kind of realization that occurs somehow through kind of journaling, or just through meditation, or maybe you're working with somebody in a professional capacity or a trusted confidant, and I don't know, you may maybe make some sort of admission to yourself about Devil card in reverse, ways in which you're feeling powerless. And you know, the Devil card and the Eight of Swords have a lot of similarities. This is like maybe a little bit less intense than the Devil card, but it is still the same kind of essence of feeling stuck, feeling like you're kind of trapped somehow, or overwhelmed, and feeling kind of paralyzed. The Devil card would just suggest that there's been a substantial amount of time dealing with these kind of mindsets or emotions, and that it's almost become now some way like habitual or a cycle, and it's kind of, it seems a bit redundant, but it kind of, with the energy of the eights, I get the impression you're transforming through this in the month of August as well. Okay, so the King of Cups coming through towards the end of the month. Okay, Virgo, of course I'll be getting into all of this and so much more in the extended, but if this is why you're sticking around for, consider subscribing, consider leaving a comment, liking, sharing, whatever you would like to do to support this channel. I would really appreciate it. Now let's finally wrap up with the King of Cups. We're back to that Fool card in reverse at the bottom of the deck. That really seems to be playing on your mind at this time in your life, and it might have happened like it seems like a lifetime ago, or even more recently than that. But for whatever reason, it might be just that whatever's playing out in your life now, the circumstances that are unfolding, somewhat bear a resemblance to that time. Okay, so looking at now Knight of Swords and the Eight of Cups in reverse. So another eight. Having all these eights in a reading like this for sure signals that you're in a container of massive transformation, and that's not comfortable. The alternative is, of course, being completely stagnant, not growing, not changing. And while we might sometimes crave that predictability, for the most part, it would only lead us towards feeling less alive, maybe, you know, in the long run. So on the other side of this transformation, I can't reiterate enough, truly is something expansive, something fresh, something new. There's typically a sense of feeling rewarded after coming out of your cocoon. But maybe you're shying away at the moment. Maybe you felt yourself kind of withdrawing, trying to play it safe or play it small, or even become invisible. Maybe you've been really putting off something quite major. And I do get the impression it stems from this Fool card in reverse. That time where you took a risk or a gamble with your heart, with your money, with your kind of where you were living, or just you took a gamble by maybe even saying something out loud and it didn't pay off. This was something that you deemed to have been like one of the more reckless or impulsive decisions in your life. And then again, it could be the opposite, right? It could be, what did we say earlier about this? Oh yeah, that instead of rushing into something, you quit before it got a chance. You maybe had invested time with this person or in this project or this way of life, and somehow you were psyched out, and instead of seeing how it developed, you just kind of ghosted it in a way. And I do think that that is something that kind of you always wonder about. Yeah, possibly relationships, friendships, or alternatively, it could have been like, you know, you were seeking like planning permission, or you were seeking some sort of a premises, or trying to build something structurally. But when the first kind of sign of doubt came up there, instead of persevering, you just said, I'm out. And then yeah, for whatever reason that bothers you still. But maybe this is what you're transforming through as you kind of actually go for something again. And that's really like the Knight of Swords. This person is like crushing it, like they're headed towards something with like a full steam ahead attitude, and there is no stopping them now. They're kind of like chomping at the bit. So it seems like once you kind of really address this certain thing that's been limiting you or keeping you stuck, or kind of potentially some of you are still kind of in some sort of like victimized version of yourself, kind of feeling like that past experience was just really unfair, or it reflects the kind of person you are, and those kind of like false narratives. I think that could be what's being changed at the moment. And then once that sort of breaks for you, I kind of get the impression there's no holding you back. For some of you, and this is not going to be for everybody, but this Eight of Cups upright, usually they are walking away from something. But in the reversal, they're even returning or thinking about it again or giving something a second chance. Wouldn't it be a real full circle moment if somehow you're actually going all the way back to whatever this was? So for those of you who moved away from something prematurely or just kind of backed out, you're feeling like ready to potentially revisit that in some shape or form. What about of those of you who rushed into something? Are you ready to get in touch again, or are you ready to, I don't know, resolve that in some way? That could be possible. But for the most part, I see that the Eight of Cups in the reversal shows you going back to pick up something that you left off, something that you really care about, someone that you really care about, and revisiting a circumstance that was kind of left like this on some sort of a cliffhanger in the past. And there's a real tone of unfinished business somewhere in your life that maybe now you're ready to get back to. And maybe just energetically, you know, if you're not ready to physically do that again, or emotionally really kind of dive back in there, you know, you're just ready to sort of process it on some level. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that and get into your extended, okay? Thanks for watching. Bye, Virgo.